know the drill by now. We have these segments where we want to highlight small business. We call them small business spotlights. Specifically, we love to highlight Arkansas small businesses. And so I have on the line Mr. Will Hansen is with us. And Will owns Hansen Brothers Construction. You can find out more going to HansenBrothersConstruction.com. Will, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you could spend some time with us this morning. And I really, got to talk to you just a little bit. I appreciate your story. We like to, highlight Arkansas small businesses, the backbone of the economy, and just, share with everybody just the benefit of what small businesses do for, individuals and employees and everything else. So what can you tell us about how you got involved in the industry that you're in right now?
Yeah, well, I just kind of grew up in construction. My grandparents had a construction company here in Fayetteville. And so that was something that I grew up with and I was familiar with. And I just like using my hands and building things. And so I went to college at the U of A, and then I worked for a finance company for about a year and decided that wasn't for me. I needed to do something different. So I came home and just my grandparents had passed away, so the business wasn't really existing. So over the past probably 4 or 5 years, I've been kind of trying to go through some of their old paperwork and plans and kind of teach myself how this whole process works, and then just kind of started this construction company. For me, it's just a lot of fun seeing kind of tangible progress in a fairly short amount of time. You start on a job and it's just a blank piece of land, and then by the time you're done, mostly what I do is custom homes. And so, by the time you're done, you kind of have the complete project of somebody's vision that you put together in just a few months. So yeah. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I bet that is. I talk to a lot of people who love jobs where they have, a beginning, middle, and an end, being able to actually complete something, move on to something else. And that's gotta
absolutely.
Be like,
it definitely is good to have those start and end points.
Yeah, it's like very fulfilling. I mean, I like it. Anytime I start on a project and that happens, it's extremely rewarding. Your mission, I'm going to talk about the mission here for a second. This is
right
on the website. Will Hansen grew up in a construction environment. He gained a passion for building houses as he worked alongside his father and brother. You were sharing some of that with us. As a teenager, Will had the opportunity to travel to Mexico with his church and build a house for a family. That experience changed his view of the world forever. He was troubled by the disparity between the difficult living conditions he witnessed in Mexico and those of comfort he saw in the United States. What can you tell us, expand on that for us?
Well, that really kind of started, I was in college from 2009 to 2013, and so that was kind of when, Tom's was really coming to the scene, and that one-for-one model was starting out, and it was pretty effective at marketing. And so, growing up in construction, I was familiar with the cost of building. And so, the average house in America is $250,000 plus. So when I went to Mexico and I realized that we were building these houses with a group of high school students for about $3,000 in material, and it totally changed these people's lives. So we were building in the Baja Peninsula of Mexico, which is right just south of California. And so there's a lot of fields. Most people there work in agriculture. And so, there's not a lot of diversity in the industry there. They're kind of just forced to do this one occupation. And so the living conditions are really the hardest part. They're living in kind of makeshift houses with just really whatever they can find and then saving up for a house. And so what I found when I went down there was that a lot of these families kind of had the choice between saving for a house or sending their children to school, because in Mexico, you have to, for your kid to go to school, you have to provide the books and the uniforms and all of the material that they need for school. It's not provided. And so most of the times the parents were kind of put in that situation of, are we going to have a safe house that we can lock the door, our stuff's not going to get stolen, it's not going to get rained on us, or are we going to send our children to school? And so we found that, by building these houses in Mexico, we could do it. I started with a youth group. We could do it with probably 10 kids in a week. We'd go down there and build it, $3,000 in material, and it totally changes people's life, because after that they had, a roof that didn't leak. They had electricity. They had a bathroom. They had a concrete floor, so they were out of the dirt. And so that really just seemed like something pretty tangible that, from a construction aspect, that I thought I could bring home and hopefully make a difference with. So
Yeah.
that was kind of one of the big starting points for me starting the construction company. Was like, well, if the average house of a cost of a house in America is $250,000, let's try to find a way to work in about $3,000 to $4,000 to build a house and pass this on. So we've been working on that over the past couple of years, and so that's kind of developed from a mission trip to a more sustainable model. Right now we're in Uganda at a refugee camp called Chaka 2, and so that services, I think they get about 200 refugees a week from the surrounding war-torn countries.
Now, let me stop you. Let me stop you there.
Okay.
If people are just joining us, I want you to know we're talking with Arkansas small business owner Will Hansen. Now, he is the owner of HansenBrothersConstruction.com, or Hansen Brothers Construction. You can go to HansenBrothersConstruction.com to find out more. We've been showing them the website this whole time, Will. And your experience in Mexico, to talk a little bit about this, the Carpenter Project, because you mentioned Uganda, but I want to make sure we talk about the Carpenter Project because that's where this aid is going through. It's going by means of this organization, the Carpenter Project.
Yes, sir, that's right. So the way that we do it is when I started my construction company, I didn't want it just to be for me. I wanted it to, not more than a business, really. I wanted it to have a purpose and just kind of fall in line with my core values. And for me, that a tangible way to do that was donating a percentage of the profits that we make from construction jobs to build houses for families in need around the world. So we've kind of done a few different projects in a couple different countries. We started in Mexico. We kind of moved to the Amazon and in Colombia and Peru. And now through some students at JBU, we've really found a good system in Uganda. And so now we're just working on kind of marketing that to other people who might be interested because, we've found that when I'm working with people and I tell them that, this is something that we do, a portion of the profits from their job go towards building a house for these people, everyone has been super receptive. It seems like something that, people, especially my generation, millennials or younger, seem to, want to spend money on something that they know is doing good somewhere. And so that's really what we're trying to do is just, do something that, everyone's going to buy a house eventually. So if we can find a way to work that into making a difference for people and alleviating some global poverty and helping some people out, I think that is, kind of the path that we're on right now.
So I want to make sure everybody knows this Carpenter Project. Again, you can go to carpenterproject.org. This is a nonprofit, and so people could give to this and deduct it from their taxes.
That's right. It is a nonprofit. So that's we kind of have two paths of raising money right now. So one of them is kind of the one-for-one model that we're doing, and the other is just for donation. And so either way, we're working on. It costs about $3,000 to build a house. So we're trying to come up with a couple different models that people can come together, or a group or a class or something like that can kind of pool money together, and then from a new construction is generally we provide the whole $3,000. And so whenever we build a new custom home, that builds another home in Africa.
Wow. Yeah, I'm reading right here. We exist to provide sustainable housing for high-needs refugees. We are currently working to build homes for refugees seeking asylum in Uganda. Man, this has got to be, it's a huge responsibility. And I just think this is one of the reasons I really wanted to highlight, your construction business, because you're not only, providing a service and selling that service for a profit, but you're also giving back. And you do that. I mean, I see here this verse. Let's see, where did it go? The verse from Isaiah that I saw here, Isaiah 58:12. Tell us about that, about to be the builders of broken walls.
Yeah, that kind of was really the seed that kind of started the whole thing for me. Was I found that on one of my first trips to Mexico, and that really just spoke to me about I felt like the Lord was really talking to me at that moment of kind of being the rebuilder of broken walls and the repair of dwellings, because that was something I knew how to do. From an early age, I grew up riding around with my grandpa in his truck and pretending to be a builder when I was, 5 years old. And so just growing up in that industry, I was like, hey, this is something that I can do. And especially it hit me just once I left America, how truly blessed that we are to live here. I think that it's kind of our responsibility to help people out. Like, I think that that's one thing that, from whom much is given, much is expected. And I don't take that lightly. I laugh and joke about it because that's what Uncle Ben told Peter Parker when, it kind of motivated him to be Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's just, when you're given something, I grew up in Fayetteville. When you're given something, I think that we can kind of give back and help people. So, we've done some local projects around here in the Northwest Arkansas area. We've built some decks for some people and handicap ramps and stuff like that. But really, for me, it was just astonishing how in so many parts of the impoverished people around the world, how they live, and how really a small amount of money can make a difference.
Well, and also I'm reading here, when you guys go in there, you're also paying local workers. So you.
Yeah, that's right. That was a really important thing for us, was that we didn't want it to just be something that, some Americans were coming in and we were just going to drop off a house. That was a big criticism that Tom's got, was that they're just dropping off shoes and then leaving. So
yeah, and destroying the market. They would also hurt the other market involved. But if you're actually employing the workers there, you're actually contributing to their economy.
Yeah, and that's really something that we have been super happy with our partners in Uganda, because we're in these refugee camps and they get probably 200, 300 refugees a week or more, and there's just no economy there in these camps. They're supposed to be temporary camps, but Africa is just so unstable right now that these people end up staying there for years, and there's just no opportunity for employment there. So really what we do is in the cost of the house, we factor in the cost of labor and material. So we've got local craftsmen there that make the blocks for the walls. We buy the sheet metal for the roofs there locally. Then we hire local people in the camps to do the buildings for us. And so it seems like for us that's important, that we're kind of trying to be a little bit of an economic engine in these camps while also providing for the most vulnerable. So specifically in these camps, we're building for they call them extremely vulnerable people. So those are elderly, handicapped, or single mothers with children.
Yeah.
Just because once they get to these camps in Africa or settlements, they're just sort of given a packet of materials and say, okay, go set up or build a house for yourself. They don't really do anything past that. So that's
wow.
We've got some good partners over there that we're working with.
Absolutely. Folks, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Will Hansen of Hansen Brothers Construction. Find out more at hansenbrothersconstruction.com. Also, this carpenter project where they're helping people in Uganda who don't have homes, extremely vulnerable people. That's carpenterproject.org if you want to see that. Now, back to the construction side here in Arkansas when you're working on homes. I mean, is there anything in your industry like that makes it harder for you guys to do what you're trying to do, which is effectively help people and give people the homes that they want?
Yeah, there's a few things. Actually, I just spent about 5 hours at a city council meeting in Fayetteville last night that a large group of builders were at to discuss some building ordinance changes. And so that's something that, as it seems like just whenever new people get elected, everyone always feels like they need to come up with new rules. So construction and building codes are a pretty easy target that they want to kind of change things up. And usually there's a lot of resistance from, building people when it comes to that. So that's probably just working within the parameters that, we've got up here in Northwest Arkansas. We've got these 4 big cities. So you kind of have to be well versed on everything because there's not a unified system. Each city kind of has their own rules and codes. So sometimes that can be kind of difficult to juggle.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Especially you mentioned every time somebody gets elected, they feel like they want to change something or do something when it comes to this. I mean, that makes it hard for you guys as small business owners to keep up with the regulations, and it's hard to predict what predictability is what a small business owner wants in relation to the government, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in construction, it's not something that can, once, especially with developers or big homes, once something gets going, it's kind of hard to change things midstream. And so, sometimes some of these ordinances and codes can change pretty quickly. So. That's definitely something that we have to stay on top of.
Yeah, I see this one, and again, this is from 5 News Online from the 15th. Talks about what are they trying to regulate the width and length of driveways now? Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, they were in Fayetteville. They're trying to regulate the width of driveways, so it would affect basically driveways for 2-car garages. And they were talking about trying to make the garages go. You have to have your garages on the side or the back of the house. And so it's just kind of things like that, we went to the meeting and they told us that we didn't really understand what was going on, but we also weren't really being provided with a good explanation of what was going on.
Yeah.
And so that's why there was, a 5-hour meeting for that.
That's interesting. I had a class when I was in college, 10 plus years ago. And I remember the professor talking about how, and he was lamenting this, that garages face the street now, and driveways are on the front of the house, and how before we were so car-centric, the garages were on the side, and it was nicer and everything else, and cars were a part of our life. And it really was part of this idea of wanting to go backwards, and I don't know if that's the city council's idea here, but it kind of seems like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they just would rather us walk, and not.
Yeah,
drive.
well, and that's especially up here in Northwest Arkansas. We've got all these trails, so they definitely, we've got a great walkable and bikeable community. But, I like to consider Northwest Arkansas really just one big city. We've got these 4 cities up here, but everyone, we drive the highways right here. You can get to Bentonville in 15 minutes. So, we've got walkable areas, but we can't pretend like people aren't driving. Also with construction codes, we can't, sometimes the city councils and stuff try to dictate outside of or change the rules of really what the free market is dictating. And like you said with that professor about how that changed with garages being at the front of the house, that was primarily just for, to create a more affordable house. I mean, we're seeing, if you look at houses that were being built in the 90s that were, a starter house or what we'd call an affordable house versus what's, a starter or affordable house being built now in 2019, they're drastically different. And just the amenities and the size comparison there's no comparison between something that was built 20 or 30 years ago. And that's just because of the way the industry's changed, the way that products have evolved, and how plans have changed in layout. So they're kind of trying to. It seems like a lot of places are saying, well, we want higher density and we don't want urban sprawl, but that's not really what the market wants. I mean, people want to have houses and they want to be close to stuff. That's why people move to Northwest Arkansas, because we've got so many wonderful amenities here. People don't want to live in high rises. They want to have a backyard. They want to have a nice 2-car garage. So, we've seen this area of Arkansas really explode. We're blessed to have, a couple huge, businesses here. We get a lot of people move in from all over the world.
Yeah.
I just think it's cool that we're able to provide people really with whatever they want. If they want to live downtown in an apartment, we've got 4 downtowns for them to live in. If they want to have a farm or if they want to live in a neighborhood, we've got all those options. So I think that's something important for builders and any sort of elected official to remember. Just like, let's let people do whatever they want. Let's just kind of give them the freedom to do that.
Let's let them decide, and if they
Absolutely.
So I totally agree. And let's let the builders build what they want to build. If it's a spec home or if it's a custom home, do what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they wouldn't be building them if they weren't selling.
That's exactly right. Will Hansen, again, Hansen Brothers Construction, Hansen Brothers Building and Landscaping. You can go to hansenbrothersconstruction.com. And don't forget about this nonprofit as well that Will heads up, the Carpenter Project, carpenterproject.org. where they are, hiring local workers in Uganda, and they're trying to put a roof over somebody's head. And Will, I appreciate it, sir. I appreciate how Christian ethic is governing not only how you conduct yourself in the for-profit business, but in the nonprofit side. And I really appreciate it, and it's been great talking to you this morning.
Hey, thanks, Paul. I really appreciate it. And yeah, if anybody has a question about, the construction business or the nonprofit, feel free to reach out to me. I believe my phone number and email address should be on both websites.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to talk to anybody if they're interested in getting involved in the Carpenter Project. That's something that we're really passionate about. So feel free to reach out.
Again, the website, so it's carpenterproject.org, and as well as HansenBrothersConstruction.com. Will, I appreciate it, sir. Let's do it again sometime.
All right, we'll do it, Paul. Thank you.
All righty, folks, back in just a moment.